Welcome to Blaze News, the mandate, day 101. I'm Jill Savage. Tonight on the agenda, President Trump held a cabinet meeting to mark his 100 days in office. And Elon Musk wore not one, but two MAGA hats for the meeting. And here's what Trump had to say.
Elon, I love the double hat, by the way. He's the only one that can do that. Get away with it.
Well, Mr. President, they say I wear a lot of hats. Even my hat has a hat.
On Truth Social, Trump weighed in on the stock market, writing that this is Biden's stock market, not Trump's. Tariffs will soon start kicking in, and companies are starting to move into the United States in record numbers. Our country will boom, but we have to get rid of the Biden overhang. Steve Miran, he's the chair for the Council of Economic Advisors. He weighed in on the surge of investment in private investment and what this means for the economy. Watch.
Look, I don't think that this morning's GDP print is consistent with an economy that's under any sort of stress. If you look at it, investment grew 22%. A surge in private investment, 22% in the last quarter. That's not what firms do when they're concerned about the economic outlook. That's not what firms do when the economy is shrinking as a whole. That's what firms do when they believe in the future and that they're reshoring activity and they're bringing production activity back to the United States, which is exactly what the president said would happen and is exactly what's happening.
One question that is on a lot of people's minds, how could the tariff prices impact car prices? Well, 25% tariffs are already on imported cars right now, and there's going to be an additional 25% tariff on auto parts that will soon go into effect. Ford CEO Jim Farley broke down the administration's effort to make cars in America on CNN.
We have worked with his team like every day for the last couple months. And so a very high level of engagement. Look, the administration knows Ford's a bit different. And we've also been working with Mary and Stellantis, too, as a group, because we recognize how important this moment is to get this all right and kind of figure it out together. And I have to say that the engagement has been very high.
Meanwhile, the Trump administration has made agriculture and farmers a top priority by promoting tariffs and expanding market access to American-grown products across the globe. Agriculture Secretary Brooke Rollins detailed the administration's new USDA portal for farmers who were targeted under the Biden administration.
We are excited to announce this morning that USDA right now at this moment is launching a portal at usda.gov for all American farmers, ranchers, and producers who are subject to the similar egregious lawfare from the Biden administration. We will work with our counterparts, including my great colleague, Secretary Kristi Noem, and others across the Trump government to address any other government overreach in situations like this. We must ensure that our farmers and our ranchers have not and will not be targeted for living the American way of life.
Finally, President Trump celebrated his first 100 days with a rally in Michigan. Some protesters, though, made their way in as well. Now, the president handled it in classic Trump fashion. Watch.
He's just a child. All right, get him out. Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, ma'am. I thought it was a guy. Thank you. And she now has to go home to a mother who's a big Trump fan. Her mother's watching. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I said he, and it's a she. I'm sorry.
I promise I won't call Matthew Peterson a she right now. Let's bring in Blaze News editor-in-chief. He's having fun still. I mean, Donald Trump, we've talked about just the lighthearted nature that he feels this go around. It's very evident there. I mean, he's always liked to joke, but this is even just another level.
Yeah, the first thing is he's comfortable in his own skin. That's number one. But number two is now you see this more laid-back Trump who's not as belligerent out there throwing punches, right? Who's willing to sit back and let other people do things in front of him and support them and support his team. But here you see him just kind of having a laid back fun with it and taking his time in doing so.
Before we get into more of the harder news of the day, Elon Musk is one of the reasons that Donald Trump is able to keep it fun. I mean, we're going out here having cabinet meetings now, and Donald and Elon are just like going back and forth. Oh, I wear a lot of hats, and he actually just comes out there, and the fact that they can do that in such a professional setting, and yet still we've seen clips of everybody else in the cabinet when they were just making their rounds, but Elon is still just part of that, like, you're my best friend, Donald, it's going to be okay.
Yeah, so this is part of Elon's genius here is that, I mean, he is a strange guy, right? He is a guy who is a very unique individual, very much an engineer type. And he's not, in some ways, Mr. Sociable, but he's also got a genius for his branding and his image. And he has this fun, hilarious streak in him that he brings to the table. And you see, he does it there. And again, comfortable in his own skin. He's going to make everyone smile and laugh. And cut the tension. And there's something about that that's really important is the right hasn't had this for a long time, sort of the confidence to make jokes and to laugh.
Well, it's written in a clause somewhere that we have to talk about tariffs every day. So let's get to it. I knew, of course, obviously, the auto prices on foreign vehicles. Yes, we know that's at 25%. We've known that for quite some time. But now it's going to maybe be a sticking point for people who have already purchased these cars, who might have had these cars for 5 to 10 years on the road, and you're going, wait a minute, all of my auto parts that I have to have are now going to also be tariffed 25%, right? It makes you think now, just going through, and I have my American flag sweater here on today, maybe buying American is the way to go.
Yeah, I mean, this is real, and it's not a joke, and a lot of people will be upset. There's no doubt about it. But this is part and parcel of the kind of things that we need to hammer out as we move forward. What does it really mean to support American products and to encourage companies to make things here? And that's going to involve a pinch, whether or not this goes through and stays the case or not. It doesn't matter. There's going to be lots of examples like this because ultimately you can't just talk about it. You have to take action, and some of that action is going to hit us in the face a little bit. Whoa, we have to do this? Oh, okay.
Well, and I love that the administration, though, is going through and trying to make American farmers and agriculture a priority here because it is so difficult these days to have a small American farm and to just go through and say, okay, maybe we'll actually try and help them stay afloat for a little bit longer is a goal that we should have because we don't want all of our food coming from overseas.
Yeah, I mean, we don't want all of our food coming from overseas. Also, it's fine if there's large companies that are farming, but some of those practices need to be looked into as well. And I hope that they do that because we live in a crazy world where right, you can't buy beef from your neighbor technically without the USDA getting involved, and that's ridiculous. It's like raw milk. Everyone is legally buying raw milk. I see you out there. I know you're doing it. We need to make this. We need to make this a free country again when it comes to this sort of thing. So what you see with Ford, the Ford company making cars, what you see with agriculture, it really is about reshaping an American way of life, and some of that stuff is just obvious slam dunk. This is great. Other parts of this may come with some downsides, right? But what I love is we're seeing the entire administration move forward as one, and the goal is the same. It's to make things here and buy things from here.
I feel like if they can get over the hurdle of getting the artificial food dyes out of all of our food products, raw milk can't be that hard, right? Like that's the next hill that we can easily cross that one.
You would think so, but it's so ingrained in so many people's head. Like, I mean, I remember talking to someone, an older gentleman, who was shocked that I would touch raw milk because it's very dangerous and you can die. And that's still in a lot of people's heads. So it may take a while, but it's coming because everyone's drinking it.
Well, you know what? Live dangerously sometimes. When we come back, we'll check in with D.C. Chris Bedford will give us a look into his crystal ball for Donald Trump's next 100 days right after this. Well, you just heard us talking about the tariffs. We know that that's doing wonders to the economy right now, and there is that potential for inflation, and we know that there are massive supply chain disruptions that are possible. They are weighing heavily on everybody, but there is a silver lining out there that most people have missed. Now, that is President Trump has specifically exempted gold and silver bullion from these tariffs. So there are new policies out there that are triggering the significant financial chaos. The administration, though, has preserved your ability to diversify into precious metals. So if you're concerned about your savings, I encourage you to go get a free consultation with a Birch Gold precious metals specialist. Now, the first step is just text my name, Jill, to the number 989898 and receive your free no obligation info kit on gold. Now, you can learn how gold and silver are in a tax sheltered account, and Birch Gold can actually help you convert an existing IRA or 401k into a gold IRA with no money out of pocket. Now, they have a Better Business Bureau rating with an A+. They have thousands of happy customers. So text my name, Jill, to the number 989898. Again, that's Jill to 989898 and claim your free info kit right now from Birch Gold. The first 100 days of President Trump's second term have been a whirlwind. Executive orders have been flying around. We have the border that's more fortified now, and federal agencies have been overhauled, at least to start. And Chris Bedford points out in his latest Beltway brief that the next 100 days are where the battle really begins. The Trump administration, we know it has a lot on its plate. We're trying to go out there and cut taxes, secure the border, rein in all those activist judges, and fill in those key jobs, I should say. Now, momentum, it's strong right now, but it's going to take serious focus to keep it going. So let's bring in Chris right now. So what is the most urgent thing for Donald Trump to get done right now?
Well, the number one thing I could ask him to do is to please make sure that my darling baby right here stays calm for 1 second, because my mother-in-law had to leave and my wife got stuck at work. So it's just us two on camera today, and her nap is in 5 minutes. But the number one thing that Donald Trump has to do, his entire agenda right now, and they know this, is wrapped up in this budget. They need to get the budget through reconciliation, through the House and the Senate. I mean, basically everything. I'm talking about his tax provisions, which are going to be necessary when the United States starts to feel any kind of economic squeeze and the deflation that comes with tariffs. If these tariffs stay in place, you're going to need the positive economic effects of those tax cuts to come through in time for that to actually be able to help people. Now, these are tax cuts that are for individuals, not for big businesses. However, tons of small businesses find it more beneficial for them to file as individuals under the person as opposed to as corporations. So, or as even private companies. So they use these taxes, and the Senate has a kind of a tradition, a habit of passing these things on Christmas Eve on 2025. And if you're a small business trying to lay out and figure out what you're going to purchase, what you're going to deal with, how much money you're going to have, how you're going to handle these tariffs, how these different products you may have been relying on from China are not going to be as cheap as they once were. You have to buy from non-slave labor now. Oh my gosh. The ability to be able to forecast out months and months in advance is absolutely essential. The same thing is also the true for border security. Customs and Border Patrol and ICE are operating completely within the law. They're using existing laws and they're using existing money. Now, they need more room. They need more detainment space. They need more bunks. They need more people, places to put people, literally just more beds. That needs to be put into here. But energy, transportation, all these different things are included in the president's budget. So he needs that in order to do the next phase. But there's more he also needs from Congress. And I've got a piece coming at this on Friday, as well as a fun interview with CPI's Rachel Bovard, an absolute friend of the show. Hello, darling. That was to the baby, not to Rachel. Excuse me, guys. It's a little hectic in the Bedford household right now.
It's so good.
The nominations for all of the undersecretaries need to come through. These are the Deputy Secretary of Defense, the person over at the Department of Treasury who's in charge of overseeing the health of the banks, both domestically and internationally, the ambassador to the Vatican, which is about to have a new pope. There are 30 some odd positions that need to be confirmed. Also, House Judiciary, we're looking at Jim Jordan right now, can do a whole lot more to deal with these rogue judges. They have a subpoena power. I want them to be going after these judges and pulling them in. This is something that would be beneficial to the White House. Explain why you think the judiciary branch, despite what the founders say, is supreme to the legislature, is supreme to the executive, because that's the way it's being operated right now. But it's not just the legislature that needs to do some work. The executive, despite all their executive orders, needs to ramp up its hiring. A combination of PPOs in charge with this, personnel management, as well as Doge is in charge of this. They need to be able to actually get through some sorts of things. They need to be able to get more people on and rely on more folks. And 1 second, darling, I'll be right with you. She's teething right now.
That's perfect.
And there's a big fight that's coming at the judiciary that's honestly going to be pretty major for what's coming up next.
So the only thing better than a cat in the background is a human child in the background who wants to hang out with her father.
My gosh.
There we are. Hey, Josie, you're on TV. He had a cat just earlier, just to give you a glimpse of what's going on in my house right now.
Absolute chaos.
Who pulled out the wire for my camera, and it won't come back on. So now I'm blowing out on my laptop camera with this adorable baby on my lap. Yeah, she's having fun at least. So, she comes from a family of people who are used to this. So far, she's doing great.
This is a model of how to raise kids in the modern age. You're an example to everyone right now, and it's a great thing. It's a beautiful thing. Talking about Congress, one of the big points you have here is that Trump can't keep up the momentum, right, without the help of Congress. And what you're saying is Congress ain't flying that fast. So is there any way to reconcile this moving forward?
Absolutely, especially in nominations. Right now, they're really interested in the legislative calendar. Exactly. They need to switch to the executive calendar in order to be able to push these nominations through. And then once they do that, they can play hardball with the Democrats. They can absolutely force them to do this. And I've got a great breakdown with the Senate mastermind, Rachel Bovard, for you on Friday and how they can do that. They need to do this more quickly than later. Because right now they're planning to get to this in August. And August is too late. The world is in chaos. Europe is on fire. There's huge things that need to be done. The banks, of course, will be threatened if there is serious deflation. If a lot of the things that they've been investing in, a lot of these, not just the junk bonds, but the shorts that they have don't end up actually working out because the economy doesn't go the direction that this bubble's been continuing. A lot of these things are hidden on the bank sheets. You want the people who are overseeing that sort of stuff in place. So August Senate ain't gonna cut it. They may be almost as out of time as I was just a minute ago.
I absolutely love this. I've never had a segment that I've loved any more than this. You can bring an adorable baby on at any point in time. I know that baby Josephine, she needs to go get her nap. I need a nap too. I'm jealous that she gets a nap, but we'll let you go here today.
Me too.
And we'll see you back here tomorrow. Have a good one, Chris.
You too. I'll see you tomorrow.
I absolutely adore Chris's baby. She is the cutest thing in the entire world. And look at that right there. You can just say everything. It's a little busy, a little chaotic over there, but they'll make things happen there in Washington, D.C. Bedford is so tuned in to the show that he will still come to you and bring you these updates every night.
Yeah, that's a good thing. And he dealt with that very smoothly. So hats off to him. Great example. And, we'll see what Congress does, but I think all viewers will be more interested in the baby.
Well, as they say now, for something completely different, our next guest will break down how Trump is making the trucking industry safer. Just ahead. We know conservatives are winning. We have babies on TV right now. Of course we're winning. The narrative is cracking out there. Everybody knows the momentum is shifting, but the fight isn't over. And that is why BlazeTV exists, because we want to have all of the bold voices, including baby Josephine, here on our show. And we want to have the stories that the corporate media won't touch. So when you subscribe, you're not just watching The Blaze, you're actually standing with a movement. And it's just $8 a month when you use the code BNT at checkout. So go to blazetv.com/BNT right now and use promo code BNT to save $20 off an annual plan. So let's keep winning together. It's Blaze TV, unfiltered, unafraid, on demand. Earlier this year, President Trump made English the official language of the United States, and now he signed an executive order mandating that truckers speak English. Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt spoke about the impact of truckers who don't speak English earlier. Watch.
And then the third executive order, which actually speaks to the heart of your question earlier about the Uber drivers, will be a order directing the Department of Transportation to include English literacy tests for our truckers. This is a big problem in the trucking community that, unless you're in that community, you might not know. But there's a lot of communication problems between truckers on the road with federal officials and local officials as well, which obviously is a public safety risk. So we're going to ensure that our truckers, who are the backbone of our economy, are all able to speak English. That's a very common sense policy in the United States of America. So the president will be signing that later this afternoon.
So here to break it all down for us is Gord Magill. He's a trucker, a writer, and the author of the upcoming book, End of the Road. So Gord, thanks so much for joining us. Now, we have you on because we saw your thread where you were going through and actually talking about truckers needing to be able to speak English and how it's actually killing a lot of people. And you actually tweeted at Matthew and I. So we're so appreciative for you highlighting this problem out there on X. So explain for us what's going on right now.
Well, thank you very much for having me back. I was with you guys a couple months ago. What's happening is that this executive order overturns a memorandum that was put in place by the Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration in 2016 in the waning days of the Obama administration. And what they had done is they had taken a law that's on the books, federal code, saying that all CDL drivers must be proficient in the use of English. And the enforcement mechanism was that if a DOT or police officer was inspecting a truck and driver and found that they could not communicate effectively in English, they used to be able to place that driver out of service. That means pull them out of the truck. They're not allowed to drive any further. And the Obama administration waived that rule. This created a little bit of a loophole. And so we started seeing more and more drivers coming into the industry, either insourced from other countries or after we saw the sort of border zone where Mexican trucks were constrained, that was opened up and now we have more trucks coming in from Mexico. So we have all these extra drivers on the roads who do not speak English. And that's sort of a problem given that the language of the road is English. All your highway signs are in English. All your weather reports are in English. All of your enforcement officers are in English. 99% of the customers you deal with, whether you're picking up a load or delivering a load at facilities, those guys are all speaking English. So this loophole sort of turned the interstates of America into like the Tower of Babel. And what happened is that the accident statistics for trucks started to increase. So you started seeing more collisions and more people involved in fatal collisions. And then in 2021, under the Biden administration, they started this thing called the Trucking Action Plan. And what they did was they basically said there's not enough truck drivers, which was a lie. There's plenty of truck drivers domestically in the United States. But if you read it, it says, well, we're being told that rates are going up 7 to 12%. So their corporate lobbyists were trying to make sure that truck drivers didn't get paid anymore. So the Biden administration's action plan within 12 months doubled the number of CDLs issued typically than any other year. Well, how they achieved that was by bringing people in from other countries and giving CDLs to recent migrants, refugees. Maybe they had visas, maybe they didn't, maybe they had work authorizations. But basically, every year, the United States CDL training system will produce between 400 and 450,000 new drivers a year. 2021 to 2022, that went up to 876,000. And a lot of these folks were from other countries, didn't speak English. And as the freight recession started in 2022, right? So there was a COVID demand spike, which is why Biden did this trucking action plan. And then that dissipated. And we've been in what's called a freight recession, basically for the last 3 years. And American legacy trucking companies, mom and pops, medium-sized carriers, have been going out of business left, right, and center for the last 2 or 3 years. But this number of like in-source drivers remains the same. and more of them are getting in accidents. Like the statistics show an increase year over year since 2016, since this loophole was opened, and it's been going higher since 2021. So President Trump has seen statistics on this compiled by my friends at American Truckers United, and Secretary Duffy was alerted to this problem, and they basically signed an order saying that's enough of that memorandum. This is going to be a fairly easy and direct way to help clean up this problem. Enforce the English laws that are on the books. This is a safety critical issue for American motorists, and enough of this not having people trained in English.
It is a wild ride to think about the fact that we've had you writing for the site at blazemedia.com for a while. You've been writing for the blaze.com. I hope you write more for us. But if you just look back at, it was November 2024, your open letter, right, to Elon Musk and Vivek at the time, where you were sounding off on many of these issues. And now, lo and behold, there's action taken. I mean, this is not the way it usually works, right?
I'm as surprised as any of you guys are. Like, I'm a lifelong trucker. I never saw myself as a writer or anybody that was going to be able to do anything, and I just sort of started writing. People asked me to submit some stuff to a blog in 2017. Shout out globalist.com, and then I went on a few podcasts and I started writing about the Freedom Convoy. And, I don't know. They say if you tell the truth, people will listen. And I'm very happy that the Blaze has picked up some of my work. I've written for the American Conservative, but there's just all of these issues in trucking that need to be fixed, right? Like the trucking industry is in a shambles. There are companies who are just literally going out of business. Thousands of American truck drivers have been laid off. We have this constant daily accidents everywhere. There are Twitter accounts and YouTube channels that are dedicated to nothing but putting up videos of truck incidents, trucks getting hit by trains, collisions on the highway, rollovers on the interstates. There's a whole bunch of them happening in Canada on the Trans-Canada Highway in Northern Ontario. There's collisions, head-on collisions all the time. It's literal chaos out on the roads, and that's because the government decided that we don't need to pay local truck drivers. We're going to insource people from other parts of the world to undercut local truckers, and this is the result.
So how is this going to be enforced? How do we make sure that this policy is actually put into place?
Well, that's the rub. It's very easy for the government to make a law or say they're going to enforce one. It's another thing to actually do it. I think what you're going to see happening is these inspection stations, weigh stations, scales where trucks have to get weighed and they have to interact. There are regular inspections on trucks all over the country every day. Certain times of the year, there's blitzes. The Commercial Vehicle Safety Alliance does a blitz every year for a whole week where they just 24/7 for an entire week, they're inspecting trucks. And what you're going to find is now that they've been directed by this executive order, when they find truckers that cannot proficiently speak English, they'll just be placed out of service. And what's going to end up happening is the owners of those trucks are going to have to find another driver to come and rescue that truck that's been placed out of service because clearly the driver who's behind the wheel is not complying with the law.
All right. Well, full disclosure that if it's not theblaze.com, that is my favorite website, it is Zero Hedge. And you were out there writing for them today, and you're actually warning of a truck financing crisis that's actually going to be pretty similar to the 2008 housing bubble. So is this bubble about to burst? What's causing all of this?
Well, that's worthy of investigation. So one of my colleagues who I've been working with on this CDL issue and the English proficiency, his company has just been getting hammered by competition from this in-source labor and then this other problem with the financing. So at the same time as this COVID demand spike happens in 2021 and trucking rates start going up, you see reflected in the prices of trucks. So used truck prices, new truck prices all went through the roof, and people were buying trucks that really way overvalued. And then financing companies got involved. Truck dealers, truck manufacturers were signing people up to buy trucks without necessarily doing the correct credit checks and then doing it at these overvalued prices. And what's happened is once the demand spike went away and we entered that freight recession, a lot of these financing companies started to realize that, like, if they try and repossess these trucks, some of the loans on these trucks are underwater. So they just told people, hey, defer the payments. We know times are tough. We're trying to do you a favor. Just don't pay us. It's fine. Well, the problem, you can only get away with that for so long, right? So it remains to be seen. I don't have numbers for how many trucking companies this is going to affect, but there's been enough people contacting my associate Harvey and myself saying that this deferral issue has been going on for well over a year now, and sooner or later the bill is going to come due for all of this equipment that's been out on the road that was already overvalued and purchased used. Now it's even more used, and they're like 50 to 100% underwater on the loans. And the companies that issued those loans don't want to repossess the trucks because then it goes on their books and makes them look bad. How much longer can this go on? I don't know. I'm not a finance guy, but it seems that there's an awful lot of assets out there that are underwater, and sooner or later the bill's going to come due for that.
Well, Gord, while we have you here, there's a big topic that we need to talk to you about and get your insight on, and that is the nation that is our northern neighbors, right?
Where I'm from.
A few things apparently have been going on in Canada, where you're from, this week that everyone has been talking about. So, of course, Mark Carney's Liberal Party won the election, and President Trump called up Carney to congratulate him.
But finally, as of this morning, he hadn't yet.
I believe he has, and the White House spokesperson Anna Kelly said, however, that doesn't change Trump's plans to make Canada the 51st state. Gord, why did Canadians vote to keep the Liberal Party in power?
Oh man, that's a good question, and it's been on everybody's minds for the last 24 hours. My opinion is this: I've been fighting with the Canadian media for a long time. I was one of a very tiny handful of people to cover the Coots 4 story. There are still 2 political prisoners in Canada that many people don't know about. And the Canadian media are purchased, completely bought off. In 2019, Justin Trudeau began to bail out televisions, newspapers, websites, and they've gotten top-ups ever since. So it's somewhere on the order of $1 billion in subsidies to supposedly private media, right? This is not the CBC. That's completely separate. That's like another $1.3 or $1.5 billion a year. So what you think of in Canada as private media are not. They are wards of the state, and so they do what the state tells them. There's no, Canada is no longer a free country as Americans understand it. And what you began to see after Trudeau was replaced by Carney is the media messaging pivoted to Donald Trump in response to Donald Trump's tariff rhetoric, right? So the Canadian media basically took the election, and instead of the election being a referendum on the 9 disastrous years of Justin Trudeau of crushing the Freedom Convoy, seizing people's bank accounts, runaway real estate prices, young people in Canada that haven't got a hope for anything, political prisoners, they took all of that out of consideration, not that they were talking very much about it at all to begin with, and made it all about Trump. And people bought it. Propaganda works, okay? They airdropped in this banker who hasn't lived in Canada for years and, has got 3 different passports, didn't hold a seat in Parliament until yesterday, and he's now the Prime Minister. The propaganda to get that guy in power was immense and powerful and effective.
Oh boy. They always say it can get worse. It really can. So what do we have to worry about here in the United States then? What do we think that Carney's relationship will be with us here in the U.S.?
Well, I mean, obviously he's probably going to have a somewhat antagonistic relationship to Trump. Trump's not blameless for this, right? Coming out of the gate and launching tariff wars with people, whether or not he means it or he's serious about it or he's doing the 4D chess, I don't know. But obviously this stirred up a nationalist fervor in Canada, which previously was ignored because Trudeau claimed Canada to be a post-national state. So that's had to come back in order for them to get Carney in the Prime Minister's chair. And, there's going to be ongoing negotiations about trade issues for sure. I don't want to comment too much about Mr. Carney. Again, he's an unknown. The guy was in charge of the Bank of Canada and then in charge of the Bank of England. As far as I know, he until very recently lived in New York City. It's sort of hard to read what he's going to do.
So what do you think Trump should do moving forward? Like, well, if you were advising the president, what would you tell him?
Oh.
Loaded question.
Well, tell you what, we'll stick with my trucking thing. Speaking of Mark Carney, I think Canadian trucking companies are going to freak out about this language enforcement thing because the Canadian trucking industry has slowly but surely over the last 10 years been parasitized by recent arrivals to Canada from India. I've read that the Vancouver and Toronto trucking markets are now in excess of 50% owned by Indian companies. And you can get your Class 1 license in BC or Alberta or Manitoba in Punjabi, and you can do that in Ontario as well. So when these enforcement operations start, Canadian trucks that are operating in the United States are going to have a little bit of a problem, specifically with those drivers who have a hard time with English. And I would think that Mark Carney or his underlings are going to bring this up. And I would advise President Trump to tell Carney and those carriers to pound sand. Go take an English as a second language course and learn how to communicate with the citizens of the country in which you are transporting goods.
Very well said. See, there was nothing to worry about there. Gord is a great follow on X, by the way. Everybody go out there and follow him. And that's why we love publishing his stuff at theblaze.com. Gord, thanks so much.
Thank you for having me. Really appreciate it.
Don't go anywhere. JD Vance says that more Americans are willing to serve in the military. And we'll have your thoughts on it right after this. We have big news at Blaze TV, and we are very excited to officially welcome Nicole Shanahan and her show Back to the People to the Blaze family. Now, Nicole, she's not your typical Silicon Valley insider. She's an attorney, she's an entrepreneur, and she fights. And she spent years actually pushing for transparency and freedom, and she wants to see real change. And we know that she's been a key voice in the MAGA movement and even teamed up with RFK Jr. to take on the elites and demand that government actually works for the people. What a novel concept. But her story did take a turn because after years in the tech world, as one could imagine, you know, you don't think about God very much. But then Nicole went through a powerful transformation that brought her back to her faith. And now it's completely reshaped how she sees the world. So now on her show on Blaze TV, Back to the People, Nicole dives into the stories that the media won't touch. And she's going to bring on all the expert and activists and even everyday Americans to talk about what's really going on and what we can do to fix it. So you can get a sneak peek of Nicole before she hits Blaze TV on her YouTube channel at Nicole-Shanahan. You can type in her name in the search and it will definitely come up. We are so excited to welcome Nicole to Blaze TV. Over the last few weeks, the media has lost its mind over the Trump administration's deportation of an MS-13 gang member. But today, during the cabinet meeting, Vice President J.D. Vance called out the media's hypocrisy. Watch.
In our military. To the media assembled here, it's a really interesting question. Why does that happen? Completely aside from the fact that I think it's a good thing or I think that President Trump deserves political credit for it, why did we go from a military where people didn't want to serve to now all of a sudden they do want to serve? That's a story you guys should cover, but compared to that, how much time have you instead focused on the fact that we deported an MS-13 gang member with a valid deportation order, and why is it that the press is so focused on the fake BS rather than what's really going on in the country? I think that what we've shown, sir, is that you can do a lot. You can do a lot in 100 days, but you've also unfortunately revealed that too much of the American media hasn't learned the lessons of the past 40 years. Thank you, sir.
Well, here on The Mandate, we're 2 for 2 because we have actually covered the deportation. And now, today, we asked you on X, with all of the changes made, would you want your child to serve in the military? So let's start out with Quiet Guy. He said, not yet. Nothing has really changed except the attitude. The deep rot of DEI and Marxism still runs deep in the top brass and command structure. Until a purge and structural overhaul has been completed, I wouldn't trust a child of mine to be enlisted and be properly instructed. It's a fair point right now.
Yeah, I really appreciate what he's saying. That is what I believe too, with many contacts still, within the military. And there's no way. I mean, there's no way right now. But we see the potential for change, and the change is happening. But you have to think the rot occurred over years. So you have places where even Hegseth has said, it'll take a decade to clean out the Air Force, right? So I hear what he's saying.
Yeah, Jack replied, and he says, no, not unless contracts are limited to the administrations. That is a good point, because you might trust Donald Trump, but you don't know what's going to happen in the next 4 years. I
mean, when we're so divided, if we start flipping back and forth, right? I mean, that's that volatility. That's wise to be cautious of, because you don't know what the future will bring. I mean, I think we're on a great path. We're on a great path towards really another many years and more terms than after Trump's of good guys trying to clean this out. But it's true. I mean, if you're gambling with your life potentially, it matters who's in charge of foreign policy.
Ruprecht rounds out the replies. He says, no, changes are, of course, welcome and appropriate, but the larger picture of ceaseless bankers' wars and MIC-driven impulse is not worth my boys' lives. And we are not defending America. We are defending global hobo oligarchy control for the top 1%. There's a lot going on there.
Yeah, there's a lot going on there. I would say, look, I don't know, it's clear that it's going to take a long time to change foreign policy. It's clear it's going to a long time. It's moving a very big ship. The Department of Defense is an enormous oil tanker, and you're trying to slowly change the course. But I will say, when it comes to foreign policy and the oligarchic globalist stuff, I mean, right now you do see some real changes in American foreign policy. You see Rubio saying some things that were just, it was not allowable. It was totally outside the pale to say. And you also see the Trump administration thinking in new and inventive ways when it comes to many of these age-old conflicts in countries. So I don't think you can just, throw it out there like, the conspiracy that rules the world is still ruling the American government or whatever. But it will take a while to change things and to flush out what the new foreign policy of America in the 21st century looks like.
But we like what we see so far from Pete Hegseth. It's a welcome change, and everybody is at least a little bit optimistic, and that is an important place to be optimistic about our future. And somebody else that we want to highlight here on the show is Ed Martin, because it's going to be his job, hopefully, to be cleaning up D.C. and getting rid of a lot of the bad guys out there.
Yeah, so our friend and soon-to-be, may I announce, contributor Mike Howell is writing a piece for us this week about this. And, Ed Martin is a guy who very MAGA, very loyal, and very belligerent. He's a fighter. And he needs to be confirmed to be the top prosecutor in D.C. And the reason that so many people throughout the country are throwing up such a stink about this, I mean, all the mainstream, quote unquote, all the legacy media people are going after him, and they don't really have a lot to throw at him. He said mean things about Democrats 10 years ago or whatever, but they're coming at him full bore because they know this is one of those positions where he can actually get you. I mean, this is what they did with that office for a long time. So whoever is the top prosecutor in D.C. is going to be able to go after a lot of the bad guys. And they know that Martin does not care, will not hesitate, will pull the trigger and go after them. So that is the fear on the left. And then for the sort of more moderate people, their job is to scare them. So they're so scared on the left, they're going to the moderates and they're saying, look, this guy's a nut, this guy's terrible, this guy's awful. But the real reason they're doing that is they do this all the time is very apparent. It's because they know that he will actually hunt people down and is doing this for the right reasons. And I have to say, ladies and gentlemen, look, most people in this world, media, politics world, aren't doing it for the right reasons. So they just want a job just like anyone else. They want to make money like anyone else. They lose the drive, they lose the mission. And so those people are rare. And this is one of those rare guys who's like that, and they sense it, and that's why they're scared. So right now, it's not clear, whether he'll be confirmed or not. This is going to be down to the wire. but it goes to show like how the world operates. And this is a confirmation battle that we'll be following very closely in the next few days.
Yeah, people go to D.C. because they want to trade stocks like Nancy Pelosi. That's why they go to D.C. But we look at this confirmation battle, and I feel like everything went so smoothly for Donald Trump in the top picks, right? We got through those at a very rapid pace, actually, yes, for the way that D.C. moves with things. Now you're getting into positions where a guy like an Ed Martin could be very effective in this job. I feel like this is probably the time, and I don't know any one way or the other, but I feel like this is the time, though, that the Democrats are like, we need to pick a battle. We need to fight back on something. And it feels like it's going to be around right now, the end of April, beginning of May, when they're doing that, because as we were talking with Chris Bedford earlier, they still have to fill some very key positions in the Trump administration.
Yeah, so that's exactly right. So what's happening now is you have some of these key positions where, I mean, Joe Kent is another one, National Counterterrorism Center director, who's not confirmed yet, unless that happened in a mystery today. I haven't heard. I think he's still to go. These are key positions, and they're going to try to pick them off. But this one is particularly important because whoever's, again, the top prosecutor in D.C. actually has the ability to hold people accountable. So when people are ranting and raving and saying, look, why aren't we putting people in jail, et cetera, et cetera? Well, you're going to need someone in that position if you want people in jail who deserve it, who's going to actually pull the trigger. And so, everyone from Adam Schiff to, your friendly MSNBC journalists are all freaking out about this because they know that some of their asses could be on the line if he's in that position. So it's an easy one where they realize the danger and they're swarming it. And exactly what you're saying, Jill, they know that any scalp they can take is good. But here you're kind of trying to plug the hole in the dike because this one will really sting if he gets in there. And I think what you're seeing in general is as soon as the administration loses any momentum or there's just silence about it, I have a feeling that Trump and others may weigh in on this one, right? They're going to push. But as soon as there's silence on it or they feel like there's an opening, the left just does swarm in. So it's not like they're attacking and winning, but they look for the time when they who's going to defend Martin yet, right? And so people are starting to rise, but they're piling on, and they're going to all need to be chased off by some of the big dogs on the right if he's going to win.
Well, you already said it, so I'm going to make you say it again. Our friend Mike Howell, he's the Oversight Project guy. You've seen him on the show many times. He is a very smart man. Say more about what's about to happen here.
Yeah, so Blaze News, happy to announce Mike Howell will come on as a contributor, and he will be on this show at least once a week talking about the good investigative work of the Oversight Project. The great thing is he already knows Steve Baker, who you know out there. Those guys have already worked on some things once upon a time. So we will bring his investigative work to all of our audience at Blaze, and he'll be writing a piece for us once a week as well that you can read at theblaze.com. So it's just expanding our investigative universe of people really doing the important stuff and bringing it to you.
We are very lucky. Mike Howell is a very smart guy. He has a terrible choice in college basketball, but that aside, we love him. Thanks for watching, everybody. We'll see you back here tomorrow night.